Welcome back, everybody, to the channel. I know it's been a while. I apologize, but I hopefully will be getting out a lot of videos in the near coming future. So please hang on, and whoever's watching, stay tuned. So I know this is super late, but I couldn't go without talking about this movie because, man, this was a movie. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Spider-Man No Way Home. So, please, before we get started, please hit that notification bell, hit that subscribe button, and please follow, comment, like, do all the things. I'll let you know at the end of the video as well. But please, I want to grow this channel and make it even bigger than it is now. So, let's get into it. Now, this movie stars Tom Holland, Zendaya, William Dafoe, Alfred Molina, Jamie Foxx, Marissa Tomei, Jon Favreau, and a whole bevy of another cast members that I'll let you know why I can't say them later in the video, but for right now, that is the cast. So the first thing I want to say about this movie is the fact that, number one, the director, Jon Watts, really gets better and better. Even though Far From Home isn't really people's favorites, I still really love Homecoming, and then this one as the finale of this trilogy. Jon Watts really grew and showed he really knows his character with this movie and the themes and the ideologies that you get in this movie. As I was watching this movie and after I was done and mulling over and thinking about it, I really feel like this is the most purest Spider-Man movie that we've gotten in the MCU and since maybe Spider-Man 2. A big reason why Spider-Man 2 works and stuff like that, and this one really works, is the fact that it really nails the concept that Spider-Man does not have a great life, and more Peter Parker than Spider-Man. His life is crap, and the biggest sacrifice he always has to make is putting everyone else's needs and the needs of the public above his own wants and needs. And you really feel that in this movie with the fact that it was like once his identity is revealed, he's not really trying to change it when he goes to Doctor Strange for himself. It's because Ned and MJ eventually get wrapped up in all this, and he's trying to do this to change their lives, not his own. So that is really the thematic backbone of this movie, where he was just trying to make everything all right for everyone around him except himself. So I really like that Jon Watts kind of nailed the thematic tones of what it means to be Spider-Man and what it means to be Peter Parker. Now, this movie has very good action. Like, I couldn't go past this without mentioning the action. The action is great, and I really like that they made some of these action scenes in this very brutal. Like, you could feel some of the punches in this, where you feel the emotion and the anger behind some of these punches, and I'll get to why it feels so visceral in a moment. But I really like how the action was done. It really showed off a lot of Spider-Man power sets and his quick thinking, especially the scenes stuff like that where he has to fight Doctor Strange, and you see that he uses his mind and his genius ability, because Peter Parker, the man, is very smart. He is one of the smartest people in the Marvel Universe, so it really is nice when you see them show that aspect of his capability off. But the action in this was great from the moment when, spoilers now, that when they showed it in the trailer, but when Doc Ock shows up and stuff like that, him being able to use the technology to take control of his arms and stuff like that and beat him with his, not only bronze but his brain. But so I'm gonna get into nitty gritty of this movie and stuff like that, and really what I liked about it is, like, I'm reviewing it, but also just I want to gush about this movie because this movie had me smiling the whole time. So the real backbone of this movie is the fact that these villains start coming through when the spell goes awry, and basically they come through and they start wreaking havoc. So eventually Doctor Strange catches them all. Spider-Man catches them all, and then they eventually learn all these villains are coming through because they know Spider-Man, and they end up either knowing him or dying. So the Green Goblin also, as you see in the trailers, also comes through, and when he goes to Aunt May's homeless shelter, she basically plants this seed of, you can't just send them back to die. Maybe you should help them. And this is really where the movie kicks off. The first 30, 40 minutes is much set up and getting us to Doctor Strange, getting us to this spell going haywire. But when this happens, this is really where the movie kicks in, and you really get to know what this movie is going to be about. So after this is when the Doctor Strange fight happens, and because they have a difference of opinion what they should do, and eventually he traps Doctor Strange in the mirror world, and I really like that because that kind of sidelines him and lets this be a standalone Spider-Man movie. And after this, he goes back to Happy's apartment that he's been staying at, and he starts to try to help these villains that have come through, and that really gets into the theme of Spider-Man. He's always trying to help. He's always trying to do the right thing and stuff like that. And for him and stuff like that, this is the right thing to do, to help these lost souls and lost people and stuff like that from the beginning. Now, before I get any further, I want to stop right now and talk about the performances from these villains. And the Lizard and Sandman and stuff like that, they're kind of throwaway, but the great performances really in this is Alfred Molina, and even more so William Dafoe. They were perfect in letting William Dafoe act with his face. He was so terrifying, he was so menacing, and he really stole the show in this movie and stuff like that. Even in the action scenes, he has alluded to the fact that he wanted to do the action scenes himself, and it really shows. You can feel the emotion and the scariness in every scene that the Goblin is in. And Alfred Molina goes back to that Spider-Man 2 of like, he's not really a bad guy. It's the chip in the back of his neck, and he really is just fighting with these arms and stuff like that. And eventually when he does get help and fix and stuff like that, you see that good Dr. Otto Octavius come through, and eventually he actually helps at the end. But I just wanted to say, and overall everyone was great in this movie. The performances were phenomenal, especially from Tom Holland and Zendaya. Their chemistry was amazing, and Tom Holland really gets the character of Spider-Man. I really enjoy the casting of him ever since that happened. Like, it was spot on. But so they're in the apartment, and he's helping all these villains try to fix themselves and get them back. But as movies go, things go sideways. The Green Goblin has been playing them this whole time, and he screws everything up. Electro leaves, Sandman leaves, everybody leaves, and everything is shot to hell. And this is where the real emotional beat of the story comes, and Aunt May dies. And she dies by getting hit by the Goblin glider. So with this is your emotional anchor of the movie, and Tom Holland as Spider-Man is angry. He doesn't even care about helping them anymore, and he's really in a dark spot. And this is also where you, before she dies, you get the famous line of, with great power comes great responsibility, which gives you a key to later on another thought I had and stuff like that, but I'll get to it. But after this, we flash to Ned and MJ, who are waiting to see what's going on, and this is where we all been waiting for. It was alluded to all the way up until this movie, and people had a sort of inkling to this, but it still landed really well. And Ned has Doctor Strange's ring, and he wishes they could see Peter, and he opens a portal, and herein lies who comes through the portal: Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man from his Amazing Spider-Man movies. And in my theater, man, this erupted the crowd. Everyone started cheering, clapping, all those things. And They have a few jokes and they quip back and forth. So they tried again and stuff like that. And another portal opens, and here comes Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. And again, the crowd erupts. This is probably one of my favorite movie moments in the theaters ever. I can only really compare to the Thor and Captain America scene in Endgame when Cap gets the hammer. This was a beautiful moment, an amazing moment with the history of Spider-Man and cinema. So, with this, kicks off another very emotional scene in the movie when they finally find Tom Holland's Peter Parker alone by himself, and MJ and Ned kind of embrace him and hug him, give him that solidarity of friends and stuff like that. And then they say, there's some people here to see you. And this is probably the most emotional scene of the movie, when all the Spider-Man are talking to each other and talking about how Gwen died and how the Uncle Ben's told him about great power. And you really feel the connection between these people who are all the same people, and understanding that they all have been through the same thing. And it's that thing, even in that scene in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, of they say how it's like, we are the only people who understand. I really got this in this live action version, but it was basically another live action multiverse movie. So we get to the third act, and this is really where the movie like kicks into high gear, and they gotta try to figure out how to work together and stuff like that. And you get your cool swinging moment, all three of them, and it's really phenomenal. And what I also really loved is the banter and the chemistry between all three of them, Toby, Andrew, and Tom. They had great chemistry, and they all felt like different Spider-Man. And you can really tell that the tones were so different, but they all work seamlessly together. And you even get the meme scene where they all pointing at each other, and that was really fun. But so after they cure everyone, the Goblin comes back to the ending fight, and he screws everything up. He blows up the box that's holding the spell in. And at this point, when Tom Holland and him finally fight again, it seems as if he's going to kill him. But you get the other two Spider-Man who come in, help him, and really show him it's like, you don't need to do this. So, and basically, to sum up the end, it's Tom Holland makes a sacrifice to get rid of the spell. He makes Doctor Strange make it where everyone forgets Peter Parker. And really, this is a bittersweet ending and stuff like that, because he promises MJ that he'll come back and find it. But this ending really shows what it means to be Spider-Man. It says when he sees her in her job at the coffee shop, he goes there and he sees the cut that's left, and he kind of realizes that it will be best to leave them by themselves and let them live their life, a safe life, because they get into MIT and they seem happy, and as a Spider-Man and Peter Parker, he doesn't want to ruin that. So at the end of this movie, we're left off with no one knowing Peter Parker is Spider-Man. No one remember who he is. Peter Parker is by himself. He gets his apartment in New York and stuff like that. He got his studying for a GED, and truly we get one of the most chilling scenes for me personally. I still get chills thinking about it. Is his final swing, in every Spider-Man movie, and this really gives me chills because it really is the essence of Spider-Man. You see that he's made his own homemade suit, no Stark Tech or anything like that. He's made his own homemade suit. It's inspired by Andrew's suit and Tobey Maguire's suit, and it's a bright blue and red, and he's swinging through the snow, and it really encompasses what Spider-Man is to me and a lot of people, like by himself. And he might not have everything he wants, but at the end of the day, he is Spider-Man, and he is still helping people. So that's how the movie ends. So this movie was, number one, really funny as well. The jokes really worked for me. It was hilarious all around, especially, like I said, the banter between all three Spider-Man. and the action was brutal and visceral and really good, and it encompasses all his abilities. Man, this movie was phenomenal. It is 5 out of 5, and I would recommend anyone see this. And if you are watching this review before you see it, I'm so sorry for the spoilers, but you cannot talk about this movie without talking about the spoilers that it contains and all the cameos and Easter eggs. So, like I said, 5 out of 5, highly recommend. And like always, please like, subscribe. Tell me what your favorite Spider-Man is. Tell me, did you see this movie? Did you like MCU's version of Tom Holland and Peter Parker and Spider-Man? Did you not realize that this was kind of a pseudo origin story for Spider-Man in the MCU, and how they really cleared the slate with this one, and a lot of opportunity they can go in the future of the MCU. It's really bright. So, as always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.